energy. Without energy, what happens to your goals? What happens to your dreams? Do you have more regrets or less? We all know the answers to this, but how do we get energy? Maybe a better question is, what is energy? The truth is, when you look at it from a physics perspective, you don't have energy, you are energy. But there are these different factors, these different triggers that cause us to generate energy, to increase energy, or to lose energy, these energy leaks. So that's what we're going to talk about. To fully grasp this and to master it and to understand it, we have to go to Africa, on the savannah, where every day is about life and death. And so let's think of some zebras. They're hanging out in a herd and they're eating the grass. They're calm, they're relaxed. What's happening within their body? Well, when we're calm and relaxed, humans and zebras and all animals have this in common. When we're calm and relaxed, when we're centered, our body heals faster because the blood flow, especially when we're eating, goes to our organs. It goes to our digestive tract. So now we can absorb, we can break it down, absorb the nutrients from the food and extract it and assimilate it, utilize it. And that is what becomes your new cells. So if you snap your fingers, millions of cells just died. And then millions need to be reborn. So as cells break down and are reborn, this is a process called cell turnover. And within, it depends on who you ask and how you qualify, but people are different. But on average, almost all your cells are completely renewed at least once within 12 months. Some say it's sooner, some people say it's longer. But the point of it is your body is always changing. So if you've been out of shape for years, how did you do that? And you're like, I didn't do it. I didn't do anything. It's like, no, you created a lifestyle where that became your norm. So you did create that because none of those cells no longer exist. It's like old injuries. Why do old injuries, like, oh, I have a bad knee. Why? None of those cells are the same anymore. They've been rebuilt, reborn so many times over, especially if it's been, decades. Like a lot of people are telling me, like, oh, my back, my knee, like I heard this, I have this old injury. But none of those cells are the same. So you have to question why that is. And that's what I hope you'll discover from our conversation today. This occurred to me. I had a bad knee and I had a bad shoulder and I talked about it a lot. And so it persevered. Now I have no pain. I never really have pain unless I do something dumb. And I do those things. I take things a little too far sometimes, and I also spar quite a bit and with fighting and stuff. And so I get beat up sometimes. But other than that, I never really have pain or anything. And so I'm not telling you that to brag to you or anything. I'm telling you that it's possible. If I can do it, then certainly anyone can do it. I'm just like you. And so when we go back to the zebra that's on the prairie, hanging out with its friends in the herd, eating the grass, absorbing, the blood flow is shunted to the digestive tract, absorbing, extracting the nutrients, assimilating them, and building new cells. Hormones are different when we're calm and relaxed. We produce more of the regenerative hormones like testosterone, IGF-1, just as a couple, right? And so as we're creating these hormones, we're creating a state of super healing when we're calm, centered, and relaxed. But then something changes. The zebra's ears perk up, starts smelling the air, and looks up, and there's just a cloud of dust, and a pride of lions and lionesses are charging towards them. And all of a sudden, everything changes in their physiology. Fight or flight. Those are their options. You can't freeze. Like humans have the option of just freezing and doing nothing. But animals do not. They don't have that. That's a learned response. If you freeze, you don't exist anymore in nature. So what happens is the blood flow that was in the digestive tract woof, goes to the extremities, goes to the muscles. Why? So you can use your muscles to move, to either fight or what? Flight, exactly. And so all of a sudden your senses are heightened too. You see a little better, but there's all these cool things too. So as you're running, these zebras are running, you're scared to death, you got adrenaline pumping. Those regenerative hormones, they're not being produced much now, because now cortisol, norepinephrine, adrenaline, the hormones that when we get stressed, they're high and they allow us to be numb to pain. That's why, say, a lion reaches out and cuts their claws, cuts one of the zebras and cuts, and they don't feel it because of the adrenaline. That allows them to continue to get to safety. But the other cool thing is it changes how the blood actually will, so you don't bleed out. So now there's an injury and the blood will clot faster when you're in these states of stress. Now, if you're always in stress as a human, what does that mean? Your blood's thicker. Is that good that your blood clots? Well, if you get cut, yeah. But in overall life, that's not always a great thing. So let's say it's a good day for the zebras and they get away. What happens next? Well, I can tell you what they don't do. They don't go on social media and tell everybody about it. They don't call all their friends and say, you won't believe what these lions did. I was having such a good day. And then you see what I'm saying? Humans create drama. Humans make a little situation and blow it up so often. I'm not saying you, but we all been there, I believe. I know I used to do it all the time because I don't know. It was just a habit. I saw my parents do it. I saw other people do it. It was a learned thing, and it's cultural. And so what the zebras do is they don't think about these things. They just go back to eating. They take like, hey man, I'm tired. I'm gonna take a little break here. The coast is clear. All right, I gotta regenerate my body. And then what happens? Blood flow is redirected to the digestive tract and to the organs. The hormones change so the body can regenerate and reproduce and allow them to heal faster. So when we're in states of fear and fight or flight, we call it stress because it sounds cooler and we don't like to say we're afraid, but that's exactly what it is. Our body breaks down faster than it can rebuild itself. That's called accelerated aging. And this is written so many places, but it's like this belief that at least 80% of all known diseases are caused by some form of chronic stress. And it makes sense when you hear this, right? When the body breaks down faster, then it can repair itself. And so if it's a person that's just worrying all the time, that's not healthy. If it's a person that's always angry, that's not healthy. And so there are two types of emotions, and this is all going to tie back to energy. There's two types of emotions, and really there's one. There's love, which is regenerative. It's constructive, it's productive. When someone's in states of love-based emotion, whether it be gratitude, peace, harmony, joy, excitement, passion, whatever it is, you produce more energy than you use. So no one's ever been in a state of joy or harmony and says, man, I'm exhausted, I need to take a break. No one's ever said that. It's not even possible. But whenever we have a lack of love, our energy drops. And so there's a point after gratitude, we go to neutrality, and then we go into anger. Now anger, we can use like a righteous anger, like no, enough is enough, and then go back into love-based emotion. Or we can have pity on ourselves or become a victim or start blaming other people and get resentful, and our energy starts to leak and gets lower and lower, and we go into states of fear. So anger is often a feeling of hurt. And so as we go lower, we start to get into the emotions of sadness, depression. If we get too low, we have guilt, shame, or apathy. And shame and apathy are the lowest of the low. That's where people consider offing themselves. And so, but that is a lack of love. We give it a name, fear, but it's kind of like this. So this has been written in an old book called the Kabbalion. And so it dates back thousands of years. In reality, the teachings do. The actual book is like 120 something years old. But the teachings are from ancient Egypt. And one of the principles, there's 7 universal laws, 7 laws of nature, if you will. And they describe the patterns One of them being that they use an example of that there is only heat or the lack of heat. There is no cold. And so life is not an on and off switch. When we are in fear-based states, or we have low consciousness, low awareness, maybe low intelligence in certain areas, like I don't know a lot about rocket science yet, but so everything to me is that right or is that wrong? Is that good or is that bad? So to me, in that area that I'm unaware of, life is like an on-off switch. It's either good or bad, right? So when someone doesn't know a lot about nutrition, a food's either good or bad, right? And that's how they manipulate people. The marketers do, I would say. And the people that just don't know what they're doing, but they're well-meaning, but they're giving bad information. They're like, these foods will kill you. These foods will make you live longer. None of that's actually really true when you look at the principles. Instead, I want to teach you how to think. And if you know how to think, you will have more energy. You will have more health. You will have more wealth. You will have more of everything that you want and less of the things you don't want. Because the mind is mirrored into our reality. So what is it that we need to do here? So we need to understand that life is not an on or off switch. It's a dimmer switch. So when you have an on-off switch, things are either good or bad. It's either 100% or 0%. You have two options. But in life, usually things are found in the in-between, in the middle, slanted one way or the other. And so you notice in political parties, at least in the United States, there's only two. Why is that? That doesn't make any sense, because you have two extremes, but most people would vote for the one in the middle because that makes more sense. There's less risk there, right? And so everything's politically charged. Why is that? It's divide and conquer. Let's create a villain and let's create a hero. And some people think the hero's the villain and the villain's the hero. That's how you manipulate and control people. You pit them against each other. That's been going on forever, for millennia. Divide, control, and conquer. We need to break free of that by thinking from a higher perspective. So instead of saying everything is either good or bad, it's like, I appreciate these things. I like this, this, and this. This, I'm not so sure about. Could you explain that to me? I want to understand it and be more aware of what that means. Because if everything's on or off, it's either yes or no. It's an on or off switch. What happens? I don't agree with that. So even a little bit, if I don't agree with it, and it may not, you don't agree with it, you don't understand it, right? And so there are really no good or bad in anything. It's all your perspective. Every evil person thought they were the good guys. Hitler thought he was a good guy, right? And so how crazy is that? Serial killers, when you listen to their interviews on camera and they're being interrogated, they think they're the good guy. They're doing the right thing. And it's like, hey, someone had to do it, because what I did was this person was going to do something really bad. Or, I just really wanted to do it. And life is about experiencing things like crazy stuff to us because we're not serial killers, right? But in their warped mind and reality, they rationalize and justify that. And so, not to get too far off the path, the principle is life is not an on-off switch. Life is a dimmer switch, because now you have endless options, but you can't be a lazy thinker this way. When someone has low consciousness, low awareness, maybe low intelligence, I'm not picking on people, I am low intelligence in certain things, in terms of like not knowing the strategies or the principles behind certain things. But as I get up, I live life more, I learn more, and I expand. But I know how to think, so I can always get to the truth. And that is the core skill. In this new age of AI and robotics and all these things that are changing, there are really 4 key skills that everyone needs to develop if you want to be successful. The first one is critical and creative thinking. Now, critical thinking is to be able to question things, not to be biased. And creative thinking is to look at things in new and better ways. So say there's a technology that is saving lives, but it's destroying the environment. That critical thinking is understanding that there's a plus and a minus with it. Creative thinking is saying this. It's saying, hey, we want to keep saving lives. How can we change some things so that we don't destroy the environment, or it helps the environment? That's creative thinking. So critical and creative thinking. That's what I'm trying to help you with right here. And you're already awesome at this in probably most areas of your life, but I want to share this because sometimes we're not aware of the things that we do naturally. And so some of the greatest athletes I coach currently and in the past, they have no clue why they're great athletes. They are terrible coaches because they are completely unaware of that, but they have sensory acuity. They're kinesthetic, so they go by feel, so they can't explain it in words, but I can talk to them and ask them questions and get them to demonstrate things to me, and then I can mimic it better than I could have done it without them. And so they coach me by me asking them questions. And I know I demonstrate things to teach them. So I don't say, hey, do this, and explain it all. I say, hey, watch me. All right, now do this. And I'll throw a ball at them and they'll just naturally catch it. And I'm like, okay, now see how you did that? What'd that feel like? Oh, I felt loose. I was like, all right, that's the word we're gonna use, loose. Loose means that. And then now we start to attach things. That's how you teach, that's how you coach, right? And so when we go back to all this though, that first core skill, critical and creative thinking, you might wanna write that down. And then understand, what does that mean to you? It's about asking questions to get to the truth and understanding if you have built-in biases. Like I have a bias for results. So when someone is really good at marketing, I'll acknowledge that. But I will also tell them, hey, I don't like the way you're teaching. I think you're harming people with that message because you're creating fear and you're exaggerating things. And so you're making them think everybody's gonna die if they eat a tomato. And that's just not true. There's actually lycopene in tomatoes, which are very healthy for you. And so, but you're making it sound like everything's bad because that's how they're polarizing, and that's how they get attention. And attention is your superpower. Whatever you place your attention upon in life grows, it expands, and people pay for your attention, especially companies. That's what social media is all about. They're studying you. That's why it's, quote, free. It's not free. You're giving something and they're selling your data to everybody, and they're making billions from you. So understand that. If you're not paying for it, they're getting something from it. They're just not humanitarians. Nothing bad against them or anything, but they're following the rules, and that's the rules right now. It's okay, I guess. But we have to understand how things work through critical and creative thinking. Now the next one is adaptability. Think of adaptability. Things are changing. Most people resist change. And Carl Jung and Charles Haanel, who actually wrote this even before Carl Jung, in a book called The Master Key System, in a book I believe called The New Psychology. It's a series of 7 books. I actually have the original copies. And it talks about what you resist persists. So if you push against something, it will push back. And so we want to go with the flow of things. Like we can't stop AI. We can't stop robotics. We can't stop these things, but we can understand them, and we can learn to adapt and adjust and to ride the wave of it. And we can actually profit from it if we're smart, but we can also utilize it in other ways to help more people and be of service. But to just push against it you're only going to get run over. So adaptability. The next thing is leadership of self, then of others. Most people are leading others, but they're not a good leader of self. And so this is what I call self-mastery. Self-mastery is the awareness, the management, and command of your thoughts, feelings, and actions. And everything is created in your life through those 3 things. In fact, they're the only 3 things that you have control over. And most people have no control over because they're not even aware of them. And so leadership of self and then others. This is going to be more important in the future than any other time in history. And the last part is the part that can destroy everything if you don't have it. It's emotional regulation and eventual emotional mastery. You see, emotions don't just happen. We create them by the stories we're constantly telling ourselves. So think of this way. When you learn to meditate, there's different types of meditation, but there's one where you become the observer. So what you do is you close your eyes, you breathe, and then you become aware of your thoughts. And then you don't judge your thoughts. You simply watch them travel by. You can watch them on the screen of your mind. Some people see pictures, some people see words, some people don't have either because they're still learning, but they will come. And what it is, it's like a river. So if you're looking at a river right now, just imagine with me for a second. If you're looking at a river and you look at it, the water's flowing. Like your thoughts are always flowing. It's a stream of thoughts. But the river 5 minutes later is not the same thing anymore. It has changed. It's completely different. Every molecule of water is now gone because the current has taken it away. So even though you're staring in the same spot, it is completely different. And that is a principle of life. Everything is always changing. Change is the only constant. That's an old quote from ancient Greece. And so emotional regulation, understanding that we have this stream of thoughts that is constant. That's why we dream. So even when we sleep, we're thinking. And so if we don't have command of our thoughts, we will not have command over our emotions. So we first, and this is underrated and hardly anyone talks about it, the skill of awareness and presence. Just to be aware of your surroundings. I had a pretty, I would say, dangerous, violent background, and I'm often in, like I'm in Saudi Arabia right now, for instance, and it's not that dangerous here or anything. I'm just saying I'm always in these different environments, so I have a high level of awareness. I know where everything is around me. I understand, because if I'm not on my toes, I'll get left here. They will leave me. So it creates a higher level of awareness and presence. So even if I'm looking at my phone or something, I'm hyper aware of my surroundings. And that's because I have been hit when I was not looking and paying attention on more than one occasion. And when that happens, you develop awareness pretty quickly. Hopefully you don't have to go through dumb things like that, but that's how I learned. There's much better ways, just by practicing breathing and mindfulness. Mindfulness is a term coined by my favorite researcher, Dr. Ellen Langer. She started at Yale, and now she's at Harvard Mind-Body Institute. And she coined this phrase, and her definition of mindfulness is simple, and I love it, and it is powerful. It is simply noticing things, noticing what's alike and what's different. And the practice of mindfulness is simply noticing what is. That's it. It doesn't sound life-changing, but it is actually very powerful because that awareness creates presence. And most people are stuck in their past, like they're reliving the past because those were the best days of my life, they said, right? And most achievers, like most of us, we're caught up in the future. We're always striving to achieve, grow, to become more because we don't feel like we're enough on some level. And so the way you get by it is understanding that the only moment that matters is now. Presence is always the point of power. And that's a phrase written by Mary Baker Eddy, a Christian healer. And she has more documented healings than anyone in history. Because back then, people had to write a letter and put a stamp on it to thank somebody. And there's thousands of these letters. But the point is, she really emphasized that if you want to be healed, you can only heal here and now. You can't be stuck in the future. You can't be stuck in the past. And you can only make progress. You can only improve here and now. You can only learn here and now. You can only serve and be and give your best here and now. So, emotional regulation starts with awareness and value awareness. So when you train, disconnect. You can have your phone there, and I wouldn't turn your phone off or anything. Keep it there, but don't allow it to pull you away. If you want to look at it, look at the next exercise in the app, do it, but then go back. The lowest level of mastery, it's the complete lack of mastery, is when we change our environment because we don't have the command of our thoughts, emotions, actions to otherwise. It's like when people throw away all the junk food in their house. Like that's good at first, but if you're still doing that after years of dieting, then you're not making progress because there's a teaching by he's not a doctor, Robert Dilts, one of the original teachers of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. He has these neurological levels, and he teaches this, that at the first thing that you can change, and you can do it immediately, is to change your environment. It's like when people go away to like a health retreat where they give you the food, they make you exercise, and they change your environment. But then they go home, they go right back to where they were because their environment's not changed there because they didn't change on the inside. Your outside does not affect your inside unless you allow it. But really what affects the outer world is your inner world. So it starts within and works its way out. Just like when you get in great shape and you transform your body. At first, nothing's really happening on the outside. What's happening on the inside is miraculous. Your cells are starting to change. Old lazy cells, senescent cells they're called, are breaking down. The rigid old cells that aren't functioning properly, they're being excreted and removed. New, powerful, radiant cells that are vibrating and humming and singing with energy and vitality are now being reborn within your body. So understand that. And so I just got a call that I need to go because I am on the road in Saudi Arabia. But those were the 4 things that really matter, okay? So it's critical and creative thinking. It's adaptability to all things, resiliency. And third, leadership of self and then of others. And fourth, do not underrate this, emotional regulation, emotional command, emotional mastery, all begin with awareness and presence. Until next time, my friends, no lambs, only lions. Let's do this. You tap into the real you, but you have to retrain yourself. The way you retrain yourself is you wake your ass up in the morning and you say, I am here for a reason and a purpose. And it's bigger than my moods. It's bigger than the difficulties of the day. I am here to live like a lion, not the fear of a lamb.